shirr. I feel like I'm not saying it right, but you get what I mean. Hey you guys, it's me SHANiA, and I'm back again with another video for you. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about 7 common shirring problems that usually happen when you try to shirr fabric and ways that you can go about solving those problems. So let's get into it. You want to make sure that your spacing is even when you are shirring your fabric, because if your spacing is not even when you have finished shirring your fabric is just gonna look completely like There are actually 2 ways to go about it. So the easy way first is to just kind of use the edge of your presser foot as the guide. So you will first start by drawing one line where you want your first row of shirring to be, and then you will put your needle down and you will shirr along this line that you just drew out on your fabric. Once you have finished this row, then you will line up this row along the edge of your presser foot, and that is what will allow you to create a straight line, because the edge of your presser foot is already following a straight line. So every line that you line up against your presser foot will be straight. To continue with the even spacing, then you would just always line up the previous row of shirring to the edge of the presser foot. Now, if you are not very good with like sewing straight lines, or if you're a beginner, I definitely recommend that you go slow and you take your time, because you don't want to have a product that you're gonna be like unhappy with. The second option is to just hand draw some straight lines that are equal distance apart, and then follow the lines when you sew. But this takes a lot more time, and ain't nobody got time for that. I made the mistake of not keeping my fabric flat from the beginning, and that's a key word, from the beginning, because if you make a mistake of not holding your fabric flat underneath the presser foot while you're sewing from the beginning, then every consecutive row of shirring that you do is going to be creased, because that crease, it starts from the beginning and then you've basically sewn it down into place, so it just continues throughout the rest of the garment, of the fabric. I hope that makes sense. So if you don't want any more creases, fix it from the beginning. Let's say you finish shirring your garment and you're like, dang, this doesn't seem like it's all that stretchy. Like, I thought it was gonna be a bit more gathered than what it is. An easy fix to this problem is to grab an iron and put it on the steam setting and just lightly press your garment. Place your iron up and down in different areas along the garment, and that will help to kind of like shrink it even more. So the humidity of the heat and the water together will help to further shrink your fabric. You want to hand wind your bobbin, because if you use the machine to wind the bobbin, it's easier to go on autopilot because your foot is down on the pedal. You want to make sure that you are not stretching the elastic when you are hand winding the bobbin. If you do that, you will cause your tension to be too tight. And contrary to this, you want to make sure that you're not winding it too loosely, because this will also create a problem as well. So the best way to think of it is to imagine that the elastic is just regular thread that cannot be stretched. So when you wind it, you also want to make sure that you are winding it evenly throughout the bobbin. You don't want to just wind it at the top or the bottom. You want to wind it at the top, the middle, and the bottom of the bobbin. Tongue twister. So just keep it even. And then also you want to make sure that you want to clip it through this little groove here the way that you normally would with regular thread. Nothing changes. The only thing that changes is your hand winding it. So in order to make sure that you have the correct tension number, you want to take a piece of scrap fabric and you want to set your machine to the middle tension number. So my highest tension number is 8, so the middle number would be 4. And you're basically just going to sew a straight line. And once you finish sewing that straight line, you're just going to take a look at it and see how gathered it looks. Now you might not notice anything because it's the first row. Then you're going to work your way up to the next number, and you're also going to sew another line, and now you have 2 rows to compare. So by this point you should be able to flip over your fabric and you should be able to see some sort of difference between the 2 tension dials. So if you can see the second row, it's starting to gather a little more. Then you can go up one number higher and also sew another row, and then just observe it. And if you want, you can go 1 full number up or a half of a number up. So here you can really see the tension difference based on looking at a small section in each row. And for each small section on each row, you can see that more fabric is being collected. So in the first row you have a bit of fabric being gathered, and then the second it's even more fabric being gathered, and then the third it's even more fabric being gathered. And we know that it's even more because we can see that in that section it looks super tight. So it looks super tight because more fabric is being pinched or squeezed together, which means that the tension is higher, and this is probably the better setting for you. So start from the middle and work your way up, and you'll find the best tension that way. I suggest that you make your stitch length a little longer than you normally would leave it for your regular settings. On my Singer machine, which by the way you can find the link down below for my machine, I usually leave my stitch length on anywhere between like 3 and 4 when I'm shearing my fabric. So the longer your stitch length is, the more fabric that is gathered per stitch. So if you see in the first row, just a little bit of fabric would be taken up, whereas in the second row, much more fabric would be taken up per each stitch. Here is a bonus tip, because I love you guys so much and I'm always trying to give you more. When you're dealing with sheared fabric, the best way to go about cleaning it and caring for it is by hand washing it. The reason why it's better is just because the machine can sometimes really take a toll on the fabric. So hand washing it really adds like a sort of extra care to the garment. It's best to shear fabric that is lightweight. If you try to shear fabric that's like a heavier weight, like corduroy or like a heavy type of denim or a heavy kind of canvas, it'll be harder to shear it because the fabric is so heavy and so hard. It's less flexible. So if you're trying to shear something, I definitely suggest you use a lightweight fabric like cotton or linen or seersucker, which is what I used in my DIY sheared crop top. Not that I've mentioned it before. Before I get into the final tip, if you are enjoying this video so far, go ahead and hit subscribe and hit the bell. Then definitely hit the like button. Check out my other video right here that deals with how to hem stretchy fabric so that it's not all like wavy and puckery, so that it lays flat. All right, so for that last tip, be patient. There it is, dynamite, be patient. So sometimes it takes about 4 rows before you really start getting that full effect of the shearing. So just be patient. And if you don't believe me, again, whip out that test strip of fabric and do like 3 or 4 rows, or maybe 5, and you'll start to see what I mean. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate your time, and I hope that you will stay tuned and watch more of my videos and share them with your friends and your family and anybody that you think would really get a kick out of it. So until next time, ciao.